So the first thing we're going to talk about is what your job as a vice president of membership is. It is the most amazing job. It may sound like it is just bringing in new members. It's kind of what the first thing you think is, but there is a second half to that phrase that makes the first part even more important. It really makes the second part the most important, and the second part is retention of your existing members. Because how much harder would it be if you lost 10 of your existing members and had to bring in 10 plus 3 more instead of only 3? So the whole idea behind being a VP of membership is not only to try and get guests to come to our meeting, but to do activities that support our existing members and keeps them informed and engaged. Engaged is the key word in anything we do, whether it's president or VPM, but I honestly believe a VPM is incredibly important as an officer. And if you know of a club that doesn't have a membership officer, because maybe they dropped out, maybe there hasn't been a replacement. I've seen some clubs that have no VPM. They are totally missing the point, number one. And number two, doesn't that mean somebody else, an existing officer, is going to cover for that for now? And they're not going to do as good a job as one dedicated to the position itself. So membership is the lifeblood of our clubs. We cannot exist without it. We could exist without a president, because somebody would step up and run the lectern at the beginning of the meeting, right? We can do without, well, probably we wouldn't want to do without a VPE, because that has so many moving parts, and that's so important to our education path and growing and doing speeches. And we're going to talk about that later. I have some statistics for you that are going to blow your mind. You will not believe that you have never heard this before. And this is towards the end. I say the best for last. I'd like for you to think about being membership every time you walk into your meeting room and every day before your meeting. To ask yourself, what have I done to bring in at least one guest to tomorrow's meeting? If you haven't done anything that particular week, right then and there make yourself a set of notes that says, okay, when I get home tomorrow, I'm going to spend half my day whether it's in the evening or lunch break or as much time as you can, at least one day every week on membership activities. Planning, what can you do to bring in more guests? Planning, what can you do to keep the existing members engaged? Make 2 columns. Even if you only put 1 or 2 things to get done that week, that's more than you did this last week, right? Do you understand that just carrying the title will not increase the membership in your club? It doesn't happen by magic. It doesn't happen by accident. It does happen with lots and lots of planning and lots of energy. And I don't mean to sound weird, but if you put that energy out into the universe, it will come back to you in the form of members. You may not know when, and I do have a little story to prove that. Cersei and I belong to a club up in Santa Clarita, and it's in a business park. And so we decided to drop off flyers and talk to anybody that we run into for all the businesses that we could cover. In 3 days, we dropped off 80 flyers at 80 businesses. We thought, we got some that said, oh, yeah, I'll be there, because this was right before our open house and our Halloween open house. And we thought for sure we'd get a half a dozen people that really seemed interested. But nobody showed up from that group. But you know what? For the first time in ages, we had 3 guests, totally unconnected. And that's because there were 4 of us putting out all this energy, and this entire business park putting out energy about Toastmasters. So some people have received it from somewhere, and the more you think that way, and it's carried over, or it was carried over from one of my other clubs to our club. But my home club has had 7 new members in 3 months. And I'd like to say, well, yeah, I'm VPM. But I believe it's the energy that we all put into universe that brings them to us. And those key words that we put out, for instance, my home club is the only really good 7 a.m. meeting, and that really fits a small population, but it fits that population really well, and so we need to advertise that unique character we have. Do you have one in your club that you can advertise, either on Facebook or emails or Meetup? My clubs use all of those things, and sometimes we're hanging on, sometimes we're flush. And I do want to say that membership is very cyclical. But when it's really low is when you want to work the hardest, so that when you're in a time of abundance, you have even more to carry you the next time. Okay? It's not because you're doing anything wrong. You could be doing things better. You never know. But don't take it personally. It tends to be cyclical. Never give up. Have you thought about passing out flyers? Have you thought about having an open house? Have you thought about having a special theme meeting? Don't overlook the fun that comes from your VPE setting up theme meetings of a unique kind. For instance, we just did a 6-person debate. And it was on a stupid subject, but we've had really controversial ones in the past. We do one every 18 months or so. And it was so much fun, and we were competing in a nice way, but the entire room was involved. And hooting and hollering, and it was a ton of fun. And the 2 guests we had that day both signed up. So use those theme meetings as well. What I'd like to talk about now is, what do you think your actual responsibilities are to your guests? Any ideas? As a VP of membership, what should you be thinking about once you arrive on site at your club? Come on, raise your hand.
Make sure everything's, everybody's done their job, especially Sergeant Alarm, set up. You've got the guest sign in, you've got your packets ready. Make sure that we're prepared before the start of the meeting so they come into something that looks organized.
Does everybody agree with that? Yeah. Is there anybody here who doesn't get to their meeting early to make sure that that happens? Because if you arrive 5 minutes before the gavel goes down, are you going to be ready? So that it really starts not only with you, but even more so, as you indicated, your Sergeant at Arms is very important. Okay. So let's talk about the guest process. Somebody comes in. What's the first thing that happens in your club, Caesar? Caesar?
Cesar.
Yeah. Cesar? Okay.
As far as the meeting is concerned, we usually get there earlier, and so we have that time to bond and to talk.
Okay, and how do you do that? A guest walks in. What's the first thing you say?
Oh, okay. Basically, if a guest walks in, we say, welcome to coming to our Toastmasters meeting. We're here to help you if you need anything.
I don't know anything about Toastmasters.
Oh, wow. Okay, I got you.
Okay, so this is my point. It's going to gavel in 3 minutes. What can you accomplish in 2 minutes?
Okay.
What's the first thing? Find them a seat.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Okay. However your room is set up, whatever your functions are, whether there's food over here, do you need a menu to order if you're meeting in a restaurant? Although at 3 minutes till, I wouldn't necessarily do that unless they bring it up. But ask if they want coffee or whatever, and you can get a waiter for them, because whatever you guys do. But you need to take care of that little detail. But you only have 3 minutes, because aren't all guests scared? And they're not going to walk in more than 5 minutes ahead of time. Correct?
That's right.
Okay. Yes.
How often do guests come in without first emailing? Because most of our guests that contacted our BBPR made a connection, and that's how.
What's everybody else say about that?
Well, we have guests that come in without being invited. They just saw our flyer and.
Okay.
And
what percentage of your guests?
Probably, I would say about 40%.
Are non-invited.
Are not invited.
Basically just show up.
Right.
Yes.
So you're saying yours is more like 25%?
I'd say I don't think I've seen one that just showed up.
Are you a company club?
No.
Okay, which club are you in?
Prepared speakers. or
Got it.
voice-
So that's a community club?
Yeah.
All right. How about you guys? You're a company club. Do you know in advance when they're coming?
Yeah, usually I got an email.
Usually.
Should respond.
Okay. Marco?
People just show up.
Percentage, half your guests, most of your guests?
Well, I'm not a VPN, so I don't really get a communication from guests, but
So mostly guests.
They get a lot of.
I mean, walk-ins, mostly
They get
walk-ins.
4 or 5 guests a meeting.
You do?
Yeah, no, they do.
well,
Oh,
there is
It's a
at
big
least
club.
a guest a meeting.
okay.
I'm mystified at how many guests they get. I want to clone those guys.
And you're a community club, right?
Burbank.
Yeah, community.
Oh, Burbank, they have high energy. That stuff's really out in the universe.
People somehow hear about it, so I think it's word of mouth.
And what do you,
My theory is they Google Burbank Toast, and they got a great name. It's the first one that comes up.
And the
That's true.
second thing is the time, because it's during lunch and
Yeah.
people could do it.
oh, that's
Because
good.
there are other clubs in Burbank that may not be meeting at that time.
Right. And my club, my 7 a.m. clubs, that's a niche. So only people that can make 7 a.m. are going to come, not lunchtime. So that is a really strong advertising point. All right. So we answered cold guests versus invited, or they've contacted us, or we have invited them. And what do you have good luck with? Mostly the invited ones, converting them to a member?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Let me ask you, we're still in that 3 minutes. Do you have a guest packet you can give them?
Yes.
Raise your hand if you have a guest packet. Okay, we're going to talk about guest packets and possible content. And that's why I like having 2 hours, because we are going to be very specific and very good about what I can help you guys with or make you think about. And then at the end, I'm going to ask for something really, really good that your club does, because we all want to share. I mean, we're dying to talk. I know we are. All right. Let's say the meeting's over. You may have or may not have called on that guest for table topics. That's for each club to decide. Some clubs think, oh no, my members paid their money. If they haven't spoken yet, they need to do table topics. However, most of us have probably had the experience that if we have a guest who does table topics, don't they 99% of the time sign up? So it's a great tool as well. So you have to determine your club culture and what your other members who unfortunately may not get to speak, how they feel about that. So it's a fine balance.
For some reason, a lot of our guests win.
Isn't that funny? And I have...
We love having a ribbon when they come.
Oh, absolutely. We just had one at our club. Took it back to the office and went, ooh, look, look. So we hope to get a couple more members from there. That is an amazing concept. But they do seem to be the best, don't they? I mean, we're not lying. I mean, maybe it's just the fresh perspective that we're not used to, that's unique to us, and maybe that's what we're being talked into. Did you have your hand up?
I think it's very important to include guests in table topics because it shows them that they're ready to go.
Right, and what the feeling is like.
Feeling of entry, or am I good enough to be here at the table? And if you include them,
That's a good point.
immediately, then they realize that they're accepted,
Right.
and then that's very big.
If you do that, and there are members who don't get an opportunity to speak in that meeting, then somehow you have to address that, so that everybody knows what the club culture is, and they don't get all kind of, pissy because they didn't get to talk. Hey, I paid my money. Okay, and then if that happens, encourage them to sign up for a speaking role.
One
Yes.
thing I found effective is when you have guests, they don't know anything. So when we talk about, okay, introduce the functionaries, and the timer talks about it, and then we go, the reason why we do this is not only do you want to learn how to speak, but you want to learn to manage your time.
And that's good.
And then, and when we do table topics, and we will say this helps you practice impromptu speaking, so that you can get better thinking on your feet. Kind of a little bit of information specifically for the guests,
Right.
why we're doing this particular function.
And that really works for the table topics master to be involved in that part. Okay. Let's say you're the Sergeant at Arms or the VP of membership, and you've got 4 guests that come in. all at varying times. Is one person going to do all that?
Well, it's going to be difficult.
So who's going to help you?
I don't have like the specific title of the person who's going to help me, but usually,
What?
You're picking on him.
I know.
but
No.
usually
I'm getting him used to
but
talking.
usually there are.
He's
there are-
new, right? So this is his table
But there are
topics.
usually members that,
You can call on.
yeah, we can call them and, make them feel comfortable so that,
Okay, and
they give them, like,
that part is
dedicated
good.
attention.
My question is, should the officers be backing you up?
The officers?
Yes. Okay, so I would call upon them.
It's
Obviously,
usually an officer that I want to help me out, either the
Okay.
president or the secretary.
perfect.
Yes.
And perhaps at one board meeting, you should all talk about what things you say, because the president may not know exactly what to communicate with. Certainly, PR should know, but what about the secretary? They might not, have never done this before. So it's a great learning process as well. So spend a little time at the next board meeting and figure out what the succession is for greeting guests, okay? I think that's really important, that they understand it is a leadership position for them to take care of a guest in a great manner. So a few minutes ago, I asked Cesar, right? Yeah, okay. I'm not going to ask you again, but I'm going to ask everybody else. How many people hand out a guest packet? Okay. Well, company clubs are a little different, but they aren't. If you want to get 100% return on your guests, give them some information that they can take back and ponder. Because aren't you guys engineers and you have to analyze and, So guest packets are perfect for your club. Yes.
Before and after. So last year, this is my second year as area director, and I have a DreamWorks as a company, and one of the recommendations was, you really need to do a guest pass. And they get a lot of guests. And when I came this year, they had the guest pass, and their membership is through the roof. So.
Perfect. Seriously, I think that it contributes greatly. Now, in a guest packet, you don't want to put too much, because that's overwhelming. And if you look at page in the packet I gave you, it should be, yes, there it is, second page. Looks like this, funky borders. These are just suggestions. And this is what all of my clubs do. This is a guest packet with a label that says guest packet, because there's another set of packets that says new member packet. Okay? And this I'm going to pass around, because I think this is a great example of a promotional flyer that they could look at in their packet and then pass it to somebody who is interested, because they're so excited about what they saw at the meeting. Generally, that happens in the first day or two. And then also, this is a trifold brochure. Now, why would you want to put one of these in that has your address at when they've already been there, so they know where it is?
They can share it.
Boom, to somebody who hasn't been there for a date and time and location. So put your label on it. Don't use the 2x4s, find 2x2s. In the old ones, they fit back here or easily on the front. On the new ones, there is not a space for a label inside, which I think is, we can't guarantee that they're going to get that far. So I suggest putting it right here in the middle, not covering up the logo, but right on the face, so the second they see it, oh yeah, I want to keep this, and then eventually they'll look at it. So the list I have included in your packet includes the things that you could include. Always include a magazine and explain to them at the end of the meeting that this is part of their membership. They'll get it every month. Some kind of flyer and some kind of trifold with your address on it, so they know where to go, because maybe it's downtown and they're, or in some busy city sector and they don't remember exactly where. This will help them come back. Benefits of Toastmasters. It's a flyer that looks like this. When you place an order for TI, never, ever, ever forget, to ask for all the freebies that they can send you. And you never know what it is. It's whatever they currently have extra on hand, and use that in your packets, okay? And then, some people think including an application in the packet is good, but I would not, personally, because I think you don't want them to, oh my God, they just want, it's a hard sell already. Leave the hard sell for the end. Let them enjoy the meeting. Let them enjoy looking at this very quickly at the break. Don't threaten them with having to purchase something because they don't yet understand what a fantastic value it is, number one, and number two, that it's cheap by comparison. Did I see a hand here, somebody?
I disagree.
Okay, I'm just going to say, this is totally dependent upon your club culture and what you guys want. As long as the group, the board agrees.
80% of the sale already happened. If they email, they want to come to Toastmasters, you do a good job of the meeting.
That's true, but you hand them a guest packet at the beginning.
Right.
And if they get there early enough, they're going to see the application, and I think that's too soon. I even have lots of people tell me it's too soon to give it to them at the end of the meeting, and I disagree with that, because that's part of the soft sell.
If you give them a guest package and then you come out with this application at the end, that's more of a statement than having it.
I think it's more of a statement that, hey, we see that you're interested. Would you like some more information? But again, it's your club culture. You're not going to convince me. I'm not going to convince you. But make sure that your team is on board with why you're doing that. The other additional thing that I may have mentioned on this list is include an article about your club if you've been in the paper. Yes, this is 2008, but it's in the local paper. Everybody knows it. It mentions one of our council members who used to be a member of our club. So that's why it's highlighted. That's something of interest to a guest with us. How do you get magazines to include in this?
We're swimming in it if you've been up long enough.
Everybody does not throw their magazines away? Anybody throw their magazines away? If you do, give it to the next club, okay? Because if we're doing our job, we should never have any on hand because we're handing out so many guest packets. There is nothing that says you have to print, but it is good common sense to give our guests and give our new members the information they need, however your club wants to give it to them. But if you do it via electronics, make sure it's in a timely fashion. Because if you haven't sent it to them right after the meeting is over, then they're going to lose interest. Right. When they sit down at their computer, you want that to be the very first thing they see. So timing is everything on this. Yeah. And then, so these are the things that I suggest you include in the new member packet, and that is, if your club is on Free Toast Host and actually uses it, for instance, Cersei enters every guest that we hear from. She enters every new member once they've signed up, and we do she and the other officers do the agenda via Free Toast Host. If your club is like that, then you need some kind of instruction given to them about how to access Free Toast Host. If you're using it as a static website on Find a Club, which is on the TI website, then you don't need Free Toast Host. Just maybe the president and secretary or the other most computer qualified person to know how to access it, so you can change the picture on the static page with the new president, put down the new names, or if you have a change of address, you got to put that on your Find a Club Free Toast Host website. Okay? And welcome to Toastmasters from your club president. That should be some kind of letter, and you could do hard copy or you can email it. Welcome to Toastmasters from TI. They have a welcome letter as well. A table topics explanation, because they've just been to your club and once or twice done it and aren't really sure of the logistics of it. Give them some more functionary information. The rest of the functionary stuff comes in your new member orientation. Okay. And 10 tips for speaking is a really good idea to start them off with. It's a really slick form from TI that you can order, and you can get it free if you add it on to any order that you have. Any questions about this? Yeah, let's talk about the new member orientation. There's 2 ways to do it. So everybody's on Toastmasters.org on their laptop, because this is District 52.
Right.
Okay, so I need my glasses. Thank you. I need to go to Toastmasters and new member orientation search. So search for new member orientation, please. Yes.
So I've been a VPN in the old version and the new version. So in the new version, it's very important, fortunately I'm treasurer, to get them paid, get them a member so they get their ID.
Right.
And then
Now we do that, and you submit as treasurer the application. In the new member orientation, we get them signed on to TI.
well, they get an email with their membership ID. That membership ID gets them in the Toastmasters.org, and then they can take the assessment,
No,
take their pass.
they have to log in, and they have to set that up the first time they go to
But
Toastmasters.org.
you can't do that until they get their member ID.
They don't need their member ID to do it. Yeah, that's a confirmation that you have submitted the membership, but I've done, tens and tens and
So
tens.
how do they log in?
They open it up, and we'll talk about it.
You're not connected, so no, I don't know.
Okay, go to Toastmasters.org.
Just click connect automatic. No, that was good. Okay.
Okay, go to Toastmasters.org. Is everybody on it? Okay. What was your question?
I was on the assumption, in fact, that's my username is my member ID.
No, it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
In fact, we get an email
But
that says use your email.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I learned something new.
And then the new, not the password can be anything you want. And my suggestion is this is not a site that we are terribly concerned about getting hacked. We have no financial information, et cetera. So have on that, the first time you sign in, have them remember your password so that you don't have to, you'll just,
FYI,
yes.
you leave it blank, and they send you a link to do your password on the very first try on Toastmasters.
So you leave it blank.
Yeah, you leave it blank. It says something about forgot your password. They send you a link, then you sign in. That's how you either change your password or get a new ID.
Okay, or you can click on need a new password, which is right below it.
Yeah, I'm trying
So are
to.
you
Yeah.
saying that anybody that's not even a member, just with an email and what that process can get on the...
No.
They validate your membership with your email address.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
And that's how they find
Unless you have submitted it as a club member, they can't do anything. And so, never schedule your new member orientation before the treasurer has submitted the application, because that won't work. And that just wastes your time and their time, because you can't control where the treasurer is and when he's going to get it done. So make sure that gets done ASAP. And that should be the club culture. That should be a club standard for your club, that as soon as treasurer receives an application and money, puts it into the bank, or however you process it, okay, let's talk about this very quickly. What if the new member gives you a credit card to pay TI dues and club dues? What do you do?
I use it.
Okay.
But club dues, ours is only $5, so I ask them for $5.
Okay, fine. But there are clubs, we've got an advanced club that charges, my home club charges $17 a month, because we have to be able to cover rent. So if they want to give us a credit card, you can't put the club dues when you're paying TI. So you don't want to pay them too much, because you'll never get it back except in a credit. for the supply store. And that's, you need it to pay your rent or, your own supplies. So be careful about how you deal with that. If you have a checking account that's attached to a PayPal, that makes it easy. It can go, all can go into the thing, and then you can use your club credit card to pay for TI, right? Everybody have a checking account? Do you know? Everybody have a club card?
An ATM card.
Yeah, a debit card. That's all my clubs have as well. And did you say your treasurer?
Yeah.
Do you have somebody who takes over for you when you're gone for 3 weeks? Do you actually give that card?
The president.
Okay, and he knows how to,
We have multiple signers on the account.
okay, and they know how to submit an application?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So-
Because you really don't want to wait 3 weeks till he gets back to put in 4 new members, do you?
Right.
That would be awful. Did you get it?
Not yet.
Okay. So we are talking about, what I'm trying to pull up is the new member orientation. So if you can search for new member orientation, it'll pop up, and what you're going to see is a 4-page document. Makes lots and lots of sense. If you did everything on that document, you would have a 4-hour orientation. That's kind of, yeah, it keeps the new member engaged, but maybe over-engaged, and none of us have that kind of time.
So is this up to date with Pathways?
I believe so, because they just updated almost everything. But the most important for me is covering what's on this page in your packet that says additional new member orientation. When I use this list, it takes me a full hour if I'm very efficient. Can you imagine if you had to add additional stuff? So maybe you want to do orientation number 2, maybe after a month. Maybe have their mentor do that with them. That would be a good exercise. So, number 1, discuss what steps to take when arriving at the meeting. And that includes them understanding what they've signed up for. And write this down on district52.org. Under the training tab, there are so many links to so many useful forms. This is your homework, truly, this weekend, is to go to district52.org and learn all of the functions and information you can get from our district. And what I like about being able to do this is, number 1, you don't have to search, because whoever's been a Toastmaster for more than a couple of years understands completely that TI is non-user friendly. Its search engine is horrible. I can never find exactly what I want unless it actually has an item number, and most don't. And if you ever get stuck in that, call TI and say, whoever answers, how do I find this form? And they'll tell you where to go. Okay? But new member orientation does pop up if you type in that. That is the correct phrase. Yes.
Is the form that you're looking for orienting new members?
Yes.
1167J?
That I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I used it for a long time, but it made me ramble because there's so much damn stuff. And most of it does not pertain exactly to what the club does. And I hate to take more than an hour with a brand new member. Okay? So start with items like this that are pertinent to your club. This would be the time where you would send by email your functionary list of duties to your new members. And now TI has a whole set of them. It's really standardized for the least common or most common denominator. It may not be exactly the way you would word it, or may not be exactly what you have your functionaries do. If you're interested, I will send you a base set of Word docs to let you set it up however you want, so it pertains just to your club culture. Anybody not want it?
I want it.
Everybody want it?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I'll do that later today. Then, these are the things relative to Pathway that you're going to review in that hour. First thing is Pathways Quick Guide, which is on district52.org. And remember, I just said there's tabs at the top. If you go to the Pathways tab and scroll down and find the list of stuff that our Pathways chair for the district has put in. In fact, the Pathways guide, the quick guide, is the first thing you'll see under her name at the very top. And that takes you to a 2-page, step by step on how to sign up for Pathways. Okay? But it doesn't tell you what decisions need to be made. And so the other thing that's on this tab is a check-off sheets. It's like a zip file, and it'll take you to 11 paths. And what's important here is for you to know what Pathways is when you're orienting them. And basically saying, isn't this correct, that the first 3 speeches in every path are what?
The same.
Thank you. Everybody know that? Mm-hmm. It is?
So icebreaker, and then a speech with feedback that you redo. I don't know what to call it.
Right, and then a research speech. And then the 5th thing is, finally, after 4 speeches, you are now allowed to do an evaluation. So the 5th item in the path, in every path, is an evaluation. So once you've done that, then what happens?
Complete.
The second, once they've done the 5 things, they have to take an assessment, a self-assessment when they're done with that. And that, once they've completed that, that triggers TI to send that email that says, please approve this submission. And it should go to Basecamp or whoever's in charge of processing Pathways. Once they've approved it, are they done? VPE or whoever's doing this? No, because you will not get credit until they actually submit it, just like the old days.
It's a 2-step process.
Yeah.
That's what it was a big.
You have to do the approval, and then that triggers your ability to submit the level. Okay? Any questions about that?
So you're suggesting we sit down and do an orientation that's on that checklist, and part of that is getting them in the Pathways?
Yes, it is, these last 3 steps. And this is the point at which you're going to need to be familiar with your paths and be familiar with the process of having them look at one of the full paths. Because what's important about looking at, now that we can look and see what the entire path is, all 11, you want them to go home, look at all 11, look at paths 3 and 4 and the projects that are required in there, and make sure that that's something they want to do. That, strategic relationships, that's not what I thought it was, because I have to do this, this, and this, and I don't want to do that. Okay? So it's really important that before they decide and sign up for a path, that they look. And this information, it's not magic. It has to come from a coach or mentor or someone specifically addressing this. Okay?
So yes, the assessment doesn't take into account.
Well, it gives them 3 options, but it may not be what they really want. I know when I took it, that's interesting, but that's not what I wanted.
Okay. Do we have a run rate as far as the assessment versus people completing the assessment?
That is true. And here's the problem. If they sign up for a path that they really don't want, they find out that they don't want, they only have 30 days to change paths. And they're going to be really unhappy if they decide at day 60 because you didn't tell them to decide early, because they're not going to get their money back. They can't transfer it to somewhere else. And there's another drawback. I'm very conscious of the dues that we contribute to TI. Our dues run TI, basically, along with the district. And they have set this up with an outside company, and they have to pay a subscription fee for every path chosen. So if they're on a path that they're never going to close out, that means we're spending our money uselessly. Because they're going to keep paying the, who knows what the subscription fee. It could be a penny, who knows. But it's still, over the long term, our money
So it's
that's...
a monthly fee you're talking about?
I think. I don't know the details, but yes, TI may be on I would think it's a monthly.
So if you don't hit the 30 days, you want a new path, it's a $20 fee or something?
That's correct. Yeah, and you have to call TI. Treasurer
I
can't...
did have a situation where they picked the path, but they didn't execute on it. you know, with like a couple months, and then they wanted a new path, and TI let them come over without paying the extra fee.
Okay, that's the first I've heard of that.
But they didn't touch it, you know, the path they picked.
So
Oh.
that's why.
Maybe. I'm not going to say that that's,
I wouldn't recommend it.
yeah, yeah. That's not good for a new member.
No.
Let's just put it that way. And then finally, do you have an organized way for a brand new member to sign up for what they're going to do at the next meeting? A functionary sign-up sheet. Is there something solid, or is it very loosey-goosey? Does the new member know exactly where to go to sign up for a function? That's what the mentor should do. Because the mentor should work them through the first 3 speeches, listen to them, help them, give them feedback. That's how we keep them engaged.
You're saying-
And that's how we get more mentors. If you don't have anybody chomping at the bit to be a mentor, it's because they didn't have one.
Right.
Okay? It's a self-perpetuating system.
And is that a mentor part of every path, or just the leadership path?
I don't know.
Because it used to be part of the leadership.
Yes.
program.
Honestly, I don't know, but whether you get credit for it or not, it doesn't matter. This is the right thing to do. Anyone disagree?
How do you get a mentor now if you've never gotten one?
You stand up at the end of the meeting when you make announcements. I need 3 mentors to help these 3 new members. And then you explain why, you know, in 60 seconds or less. Okay? That's how it starts. And either the VPE or the membership VP takes care of that. I prefer to have membership take care of it, because if your VPE is doing the right job, they are buried. They don't have time to do a good job of that. Because that requires some coaching between you as membership and a mentor to get them started. Then it kind of perpetuates itself. You know, because we had a mentor, so we know what to do, right? Generally.
Didn't have a mentor.
Uh-oh, well then, let's meet sometime. Okay, moving on. Here is one more for the orientation to use for pathways. This talks very clearly about what the 4 speeches are, plus the evaluation. And this, in case you forget what we talked about, this is a good reference to tell them to start the discussion on pathways. Okay?
And all the paths have the same project.
Yes, in level 1.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. And again, let me remind you, if you have not written this down, how many of our officers here go to district52.org regularly? You guys? Yes, yes, yes?
As needed.
Michael?
Needed.
Okay, all right. Well, as needed, until you know all the resources that are on District 52, it is not as needed. It is needed. So please spend an hour and find out what all the resources are underneath the tabs. If you have a question about a contest, we now have a contest tab that tells you everything you need to know. What are our 2 contests?
International speech and, what is it, tabletop?
No,
Evaluation.
no.
I think you're doing humorous.
It's humorous. So we have 2 5 to 7 minute speeches.
So they change it up.
Yes, and it's the district trios.
More evaluation content?
No, we rotate. We can never do all of them.
That's just
Yeah.
once a year.
So the subsidiary, the secondary contest, rotates between humorous, which we haven't done in 3 or 4 years, evaluation, table topics, and tall tale.
Tall tale.
So
Tall
we
tales.
having, in 2020, we're having humorous and
International.
Always have
So our clubs need to conduct their contests in February. And I would have 2 separate meetings, because you're talking about 2 sets of 5 to 7 minute speeches. The area contests, you should be signing up soon for your area contest. And then that's March, April are the division contests. And Cersei, it's May 16th is our district conference, which is where we have the finals for both. Now, the tab on District 52 has all the information, including the judging form, so that you know what your speech must include to be judged and move forward.
What are the two speeches?
International and humorous. Now, they're very, very similar in the respect that they both need a message. They both have some of the similar judging requirements, which is, just like if you have all the skills from your CC, you're gold. Because all of those.
We used to have, what, 6 projects completed in the CC?
It's
What's it now?
is it the same? 6
No, well, it's
Through level 3.
through level 3.
Okay, that's
Okay.
good to know.
Okay. And the only difference between the two, and there can be no difference, because doesn't the best speech have some really cool humor? Now, it's not a stand-up, either one of them, but the more humor you have to make your point, the more your audience is going to connect to you and engage you. But you have the opportunity to do funny in a different way with the humor speech. Any questions on the contest? So this is why you want to know district52.org, because there's the contest tab, there's the training tab, which with all of the links to all of the training information you may ever want. There is a tab for the calendar, which gives you the links to all the upcoming training events, and everything we've discussed is going to be right here.
Next to the old CC.
Yes, like the leader. Oh. Well, yes, the CC. We had a project just for body
speak.
Yes, there's stuff in the pathways that covers that. There's stuff in pathways that covers vocal variety. So you're not being deprived of any of those specific things. Just it's organized differently. Okay, and Cersei has a great thing that tells us how to connect. Yes, Cersei. To make our experience really good. I know this sounds like school, but if you want to get the most out of your ability to speak well, learn your office. Inspire those around you. Inspire yourself to become president or VPE. Learn the other functions of your office. Now, I know there's some of us who've been around forever. I've already done everything. Who said learning was ever finished?